Guys that you've noticed are obsessed with gear. Yeah, for whatever endeavor they're involved in. You know, it could be like fixing a car, it could be camping, it could be skiing, it could be whatever. They obsess about getting the right equipment. And going to the store and perusing catalogs and online and whatnot and finding like all the perfect gear for the activity. I mean, these guys will get so obsessive that, you know, they'll freak out over a screwdriver instead of just using whatever they've got, you know? They're like, it has to be perfect, the perfect tool, the perfect equipment for anything. And the more important the activity, the more they obsess about gear. Now you have to be very careful about these guys, and you have to be very careful that you do not become a guy like this, a guy who is obsessed with gear. In the military, in the US military, they call it being gear queer, which is a funny expression, but it sort of like captures it. You need the perfect gear for the activity, and if you don't have the perfect gear for the activity, then you can't do the activity. Now you have to guard against this mentality. Guard against it at all costs. Because what happens is that a lot of times, this obsession with gear, the obsession with having the right tools for whatever activity, and not having it, well, that's the excuse to not do that thing. Doesn't matter what it is. We want to do something, and yet at the same time we're afraid. And so a lot of times people who are gear queers, what's going on is that they are obsessing about the equipment that they need for the activity. And since it is impossible to be prepared for every contingency, they use the fact that they don't have the right equipment as an excuse not to do the activity, i.e., it is a socially acceptable way to give in to their fear. You have to guard against it. You have to guard against this at all costs. You have to recognize it in others and in yourself, most especially in yourself. Because recognizing it in others is actually quite easy. But recognizing it in yourself, that's hard. See, because we're masters at fooling ourselves, of course. And so what happens is that whenever you find yourself in a situation whereby you keep thinking, I don't have the right equipment, I don't have the right gear for whatever the activity is, whatever the project is, you have to realize what's going on and realize that you are creating obstacles for yourself so that you don't need to do the activity. Now this is true in activities like, I don't know, fixing a car or going skiing or something like that, but it's also, crucially, something that happens when you embark on a new project, a new adventure, a new business. When you take a big step in your life. It's very easy to start looking at your situation and say, oh, I can't do this, say, this new business because I don't have this, I don't have that. It's very easy to fall into that trap. It's very easy to fall into paralysis because you don't have the right gear, the right connections, the right this, that, the other, doesn't matter. See, the mentality of being gear queer percolates in areas that are extremely important in your life, most especially starting new projects, big projects, taking that first initial step towards being a bigger man. We're all afraid of taking a new step, a big step in a new direction. All of us are afraid of that. That's perfectly normal, you see? And anybody who says that, oh, I'm fearless, he's lying. We're all afraid all the time. That's not the issue. The issue is controlling the fear. And guys who are gear queer, guys who come up with reasons not to do something because they don't have the right equipment, they don't have the right this or that, the other, the right clothing, the right whatever. It's just their excuse. It's just your excuse. The second you see this in yourself, stop and say, oh, what's going on? Do I really lack this thing, or am I using this as an excuse not to pursue the thing that I want? In other words, you have to ask yourself, am I afraid, so afraid that I'm making excuses not to do something that I want to do? Because ultimately that's what's going on. See, you can do anything with minimal gear. I mean, shit, you can fix a car with like a wrench and a wire coat hanger. Sure, you know? I mean, it'll take some ingenuity, but you'll be able to do it. Sure, see? But having all the perfect gear and postponing activity until you get all the perfect gear, the perfect circumstances, that's just excuses. But the thing is, see, just telling people that is not going to be enough to solve the problem. Telling people that they're making up excuses because of lack of gear, it's not going to get them to take that step forward. That is going to require an effort of will on your part. Whenever you find yourself in the situation where you are making excuses to not do something, stop and ask yourself, hand to heart, honestly, just to yourself, am I making excuses? Odds are, I would say 4 times out of 5, you are making excuses. And you can do the activity, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You can do it without the gear that you think that you need. The circumstances, the people, the whatever that you believe you need. Don't fall for the trap of being a gear queer, because it's tempting. It's so tempting. It's so tempting to not pursue something because you think you lack something, and instead of pursuing that thing that you want, you start pursuing the gear. Yeah. I mean, I remember this very, very clearly when I was very young. I thought I liked to golf. I hated to golf, but I liked the gear. I like the gear, I like the ambience, I like the country club, the golf club. I like having lunch there. I like the clothes, yeah, but I hated golfing. And so the weird thing I would do is I would go golfing, quote unquote, but say, well, I'm not actually going to go and golf because, I don't have the right clubs or I don't have the right shoes. And I'd spend hours and hours looking at the clubs and the shoes in various catalogs and whatnot, Titleist and all the rest of it, and debating endlessly. But it was just a way to postpone. It was just a way to postpone because I didn't like to do it. That was the thing. If you're afraid of something, or as in my case, you just don't really like it, but you like other aspects of it, and so you want to be part of that but not really do the activity, well, you have to look at yourself and ask yourself. When Socrates said that, the most important thing for a person to do, or for man to do, is to know thyself, what do you think he meant? He meant this kind of shit. He meant this of figuring out if you're using excuses to get out of something that you really don't want, or you're just really too afraid to pursue.